Hello everyone, let's wait a little bit until everyone joins us and then we'll start. Okay, let's start. Hello everyone, welcome to today's session, and today we have two things to do. The first is to prepare for the project in teams. We'll split in teams, and I will also show you the tasks which you can select for your team. So once this is done, the reference to the PowerPoint is wrong one. Let me update it. This one. Okay, there are just two slides. And yeah, I will also share the files with you. In Discord. Oh, sorry, not the wrong chat. That was with Anastasia. Moment. So that was the wrong chat. And there are just two slides, and agenda as well. And the presentation where the exceptions, when there's where the exceptions are described. So yeah, this is the goal for today, and maybe for next lesson as well. Let's see how it goes. So yeah, let's start. First of all, let's start with the project, which will basically start from today. And I already have we already have two teams. The first team is William with Alexandra and Natalie with Anastasia. If there are any more volunteers who wants to build the team, so please please write to me right now. If you want, then I'll just randomly split you into teams. I can get all the participants from Google Meet, but I think it's better if you just write that you are here in Discord, so I can just note that you are here and I can split you in teams. So please write that you are here in Discord. That would be better, and then I will split you into teams. For those who, except Lily, Alexandra, Natalie, and Anastasia, just as you are already. Yeah, thank you, Christina. And please write your names. Yeah. No, just you are here. And so then after that I will. Okay, so now we have more people to. So how will I do it? I will just create the program in Java, and which will just split you in teams. So maybe just for practice, for practical work, let's do it using the code. And let me open the Eclipse. So, I see there are 7 people here. Okay, that would be hard to split 7 participants in teams of 2, but let's see. Okay, so I will more people joining. Just for those who just joined us, please write in Discord that you are here, so I can split you in teams. I think we can use additional package, so I'll create it. Here. Right. Thank you, Olga. And now we are. Oh, you are 9, so non even number again. Okay. Okay, then let's see. What will we have? So I will split. I'll create the class, the method, and then I will use the scanner. A resolution. Thank you very much, one again. Just it. Okay, so resolution is on place now. Yeah. So okay, I will use the scanner again. I'll just copy the code from here. We have and I will just enter the names scanner, and I will enter the names from console. So what will I do? Yeah, I will ask user to enter the name. And so after that we will enter the name from console. The next line, and so what will I do? While name is not just empty space, I will add the name to collection. So I'll create the collection of all the participants right here. Yeah. So this will be the list. Also need to import the packages as well, Java-13 as usually. And yeah, I'll create the array list first, and then I will just add all the participants here. And this string will be the name. And also I will repeat the action, so we have two comments here. So this is the first one, and and then I will go to the next name. So yeah, now we will have all the values, all the participants here, and then what will I do? I will use the collections and collections class, and there's the method, static method shuffle. So I'll just shuffle the elements in the collection, and after that I will have just all the participants in random order. And after that I will print all the participants just in pairs of two. So how will I do it? Again, as usually, I'll use iterator. So to go through all the elements of the collection. Participants, iterator, and as usually, while iterator has next, we'll type the name. So yeah, maybe at first I'll start this way. I will create boolean variable, and this will point to you if we need to move to the next team. So at first, yeah, so next team, and by default it will be false because at first position we don't need to move to the next team. No, maybe let's don't use boolean, we'll use the counter. So this will be members in the team, members, and by default it's 0. If members is 2, we go to the next team. So what does it mean? It means that we go to the next line. The next one, one separator. Yes. Else we'll just not else, but I will increment. Yeah, increment. Sorry, here we also need to initialize the number of members as well, because we are on the next line, and we initialize it with 0. And check here. I increment it, and I'm adding a new. I'm printing the current participant. So this will be this way. Iterator, next, and I will also print. No, I won't print next one. I will just that will be correct. I will print one element, and I will also print the space to just separate two elements. Maybe I think the space should be enough. So yeah, let's quickly test it. Without putting the real names, I will just put the numbers. 1, 2. Oh yeah, sorry. No, that's correct. You can just type the name this way. And if you type enter, then the numbers are randomly split. So we have one number, we have another number, then we have the number here and the number here. In the same way we can check it again. The numbers, and then we will type the names. So we have also the split here. And so right now I will split you in teams. One of you will be the last one, I mean without the team assigned here, but let's do it this way, that we will have one team of 3, so it means that the last 3 elements, the last pair plus the last element, the last participant will be in one team, so we'll have the team of 3. Alright, so let's put you in teams. So we will start just one by one. The first participant is Christiane. And then we have Vaima. Then Anastasia. I will write Anastasia. Oh, we just have one Anastasia today, so that's fine. We have Ekaterina. There's Maya. There's Tarta. Olga. Dina. And that's it. Okay, so I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, Sandra. Have I missed Sandra? Oh, sorry, Sandra. Okay, so I just accidentally missed you. Okay, maybe let's do it again. Christiana. I'm sorry, just accidentally missed you. Okay, Christiana, Vaima, Anastasia. Then we have Ekaterina. Sandra, this time will be included here. And Maya, Marta, Olga, and Dina. And that's it. Okay, so now we have these teams, so it means that we'll have one team with 3 participants. So I will just note all these, type the names of all the participants in the Excel file. So I will quickly write it. So team 3 will be Anastasia and Vaima. Just copy the names here. Then we have Sandra. Olga, Darta, and Ekaterina. Yeah, and the last thing will be free, so another name here. And yeah, so we have team of free and Maya as well. Okay, so now we have all the teams right here, and yeah, this is about this putting in teams. The next thing is basically what you need to do. Yeah, I just have a short presentation with one slide. So it means in 2 weeks until next Friday, you just have to prepare a small game. A small game, you can implement it in console, and just doing all the steps there with the players. So it means that you'll play on the same computer. You don't need to do any networking and sharing there. Just one computer. And here you have the examples of the games you can implement. Of course, if you have your own idea, then you can also implement the game there. And in addition, just maybe in addition to this, I said you can implement it in console by just using input. I use the scanner. If we have the time this week, we may also maybe cover the shortly. I'm not sure if we will manage to do it shortly. Graphical interface. So when you can use the graphics, but I'm not sure if we'll manage to do it this or next week, but let's see how it goes. If we will manage, then you can also try to use graphical user interface here as well. But yeah, but the idea is, the initial idea and the main idea is that you just do it from console. Yeah, so you can each team can select one of the activities. You can so each team, please write the activity you want to select from here. So you can discuss it. It's not mandatory that you do it right now. You can discuss it maybe a little bit later, and then just write in main chat so you can pick the option here. And if you have your own idea, you can also select it if you want. So yeah, you need to implement it. About the way how you do it, there are no strict rules. Please improvise it as well. If you want, you can find your own options to do it. So there are no strict rules here. And once it is done, next Friday, so it means February 19th, you need to present it. Will have the common call with members from Accenture, and Zand as well will be there. And so don't worry, it's just a simple show at the end of the showing at the end of the course what you can do. And yeah, so if you have any questions, please ask. But yeah, so please discuss in teams which one you want to select, and after that you can start working on it. So this is about project work. Okay, if there are no questions yet, then we will move to exceptions topic. Really interesting and really important topic in Java. that was not fully included in our course, but this is a really important topic, not only in Java but in programming, because but at least all the programming languages where I have worked with use exceptions, and this is an absolutely normal way, just standard part of the programming itself. So yeah, let's start with theory. Then we will. What will we do on the practical part? We will go through some tasks where we used input when we created different things, and we will add the exceptions to them. So we will basically what we will do. We will adjust our previous tasks, our previous not assignments, but anything we did, and we will do some adjustments using the exceptions. But let's see how it goes first. Okay, so the first theme is the topic selected, not only tic-tac-toe. Okay, so I will note this one. Okay. Yeah, you can also try to visualize tic-tacs. Okay, no taxing yet. Tic-tac-toe. You can also visualize it in console. So just type something. You can type something like this. Yeah, this X or O or zeros. You can print something like this in console and visualize it that way. And maybe just if you want to use empty squares, you can just type just empty places. You can type something like underscore. You can also but if you want, you can also extend this tic-tac-toe by maybe more than 3 rows and 3 columns. Yeah, but that's up to you. You can improvise here. Okay, so let's back to exceptions. What are the exceptions? We already faced some things related to exceptions. At first, when we used input-output, that was regarding the files. As you've seen, there were some exceptions like input-output exception. Also, in Java database connectivity, we faced the exception that there were different exceptions, SQL exceptions, and I think there were some exceptions. I don't actually remember which exceptions there were, but the fact is that we faced the exceptions there. And so yeah, first of all, I want you to understand maybe the base of the exceptions. At first, you should understand that the exceptions do not mean that just if you have the exception in your code, so you've written the code, now you execute the code, you get the exception. It's not mandatory that this means that you have incorrect code or some incorrect things. Yeah, it doesn't automatically mean that this is something wrong. Yeah, this is the first thing when we talk about exceptions. This is the first thing you need to understand, that exceptions does not mean that you have something wrong. Yeah, even more if you just type something, then we execute our command, execute our file, then we get the exception for some reasons, and you should not think that it always means that this is something wrong. So this is the first place to understand. And just as an example, imagine again if we have the application, the website, the email, and so on. You have the fields where you just type something, and it is possible that you type something incorrectly. For example, the username and password. So you have the form where you need to enter username and password. Yeah, then you just imagine you basically what's the logic? You enter username and password, then you get into your account. If it's the email, just any account. And basically how the program works, you enter everything correctly, then the program lets you inside your account. Otherwise, and yeah, the question is what happens otherwise. Just if you have a simple program without any exceptions, what does it mean? It means that not without exception, but without the accurate exception handling, you just get the error, yeah, because the program tries to get into your account, but it does not work. So it just we assume that this may be the error. Yeah, something is wrong, and just basically the program stops working. Everything is broken, and that's it. But this is not how it usually happens, right? Usually we have some message which allows us to enter the password again with the incorrect input, with correct input. And yeah, so what happens at this point? At this point, we enter. The program checks if everything is correct or not. Then, if not, we receive error message and we try again. With the exceptions, the same. Maybe let's move on with the presentation. No, maybe. Okay. With the exception happens the same. So we have the program. So the program is working in some way with different steps, and at some point we just have such result. As for example, here we have 4 exceptions. Maybe let's start with the first one. So we have the program. The program just goes one by one, so it executes all the statements there, and accidentally we faced not we, but the program faced attempts to access the reference variable, yeah, which is actually null. Yeah, for example, it can be the string, which is null, or any reference variable, like any class. Yeah. Object with the reference to the class, and non-primitive data type, and you get and you try to, and the program tries to access not access but use the this variable which is null. And the result, what do you have? You have null pointer exception. So let's quickly check it, and then we'll basically see how it works. No, maybe just to be more precise, let's create another package. Yeah, I will name it examples. So yeah, we can, let's for example use the string. I'll name it variable, and I will assign null for it. Okay, and if I try to access it, in which, okay, compile, it does allow me. Yeah, it does allow me. So yeah, what you have null pointer exception. It means that we try to access the variable which is actually null. So we get this exception. And it also, Java stack shows us at which line the error, not the error, but the exception is occurred. So as you can see here, it is on line 7, this one. Yeah, and after that, so if I just have any other code after the exception is occurred, So we can see that this code will not be executed because the program finishes right here after the exception is occurred. Yeah. This is the exception, but again I said this should not. We can deal with such exception. We will see how can we do it. Then what we have? We also have, for example, array index out of bounds exception. If we work with the arrays, for example, we have the array which has two elements, and then we try to access the third element. What will we have? We will have the array out of bounds exception. So this is different exception right now. Previously we had no pointer exception on this one. Now we have the array index out of bounds exception. So we have different exceptions based on the things happened during the inside the code. So we can have different exceptions occur. And just in addition, let's also try to add some. We can test other exceptions like cost exception. We had such exceptions previously, but we can quickly create new classes and show this issue. So I'll create two classes just without any logic there, so we can just use them to create the objects. So we have a subclass and we have a superclass. And if we let's create the object. So this would be the superclass, and we'll create the object of the superclass. And then I will also create the variable for the subclass, and I will try to cast the superclass, but the subclass of the. So now I do the casting, and so here I try to cast the current class to this object to the subclass. As we can see here, I do the downcasting, and as we know, if the downcasting is done incorrectly, then we will have class cast exception, and this is basically what we will have right now. Then we have class cast exception because we try to cast the superclass to subclass. But as you know, we can only cast the subclass to superclass, not other way, or to the same class. And this is not the casting. So we can only cast to the superclass. In this case, we cast subclass to the superclass to subclass, and again here we try to assign more details to more general, or opposite way, more general to more detailed. So as we know, the superclass has less properties than the subclasses have, and that's why it has less properties, but we try to pass it to the variable which should have more properties, and that's why we get this class cast exception. Okay, I see two more teams here. Okay, but so tic-tac-toe can also be used for two teams. no issues for me. Okay, to Ilya and to Alexandra as well, and Hangman to August and Sanderstein. Okay. Yeah, here you can also influence with the words you can type. Yeah, maybe one participant can just type the word, then another participant to guess this word. Okay, so Weimar and Anastasia Carlson both. Okay. Okay. Okay, this is okay, noted. So the last the two teams. Okay. Okay. So yeah, now we here we have past exception. Yeah, maybe I will also type the comments here. Okay. Past the super clause to the sub clause. Here we attempt to access the element of the array which is greater than the dimension of the array. Dimension of the array. No, not dimension, but the places in the array. Yeah, and here just try to access the variable which has no reference. It is made. So for this case, and the last case mentioned here is runtime exception. Okay, this may be a little bit tricky to repeat. I think yeah, I think you cannot really I cannot really give the example, but this can also be occurred in some way. Yeah, but yeah, I cannot really imagine the example quickly. So maybe let's keep it as is without showing the examples. But the idea is that we can have different exceptions based on different cases we have in the code. And yeah, basically what is an exception? As it stands here, even that occurs when something unexpected happens. You can access new element, you can try to access the element of the array which is out of array bounds. Also try to add, try to assign an incompatible value to the variable. So you will get the exception in this case. What I don't actually agree 100% is that it is something unexpected, because usually when we use the exceptions, we expect that this may happen. That's why, yeah, we can call it a little bit unexpected, but most of the programs where exceptions are used usually expect the exceptions. Yeah, that's why I think that would be more precise if we use something expected happens, some expected issue, or yeah, some expected exception happens, then unexpected. Yeah. So yeah, we usually prepare for the issue, for some exceptional cases here, and then we cover them using the exceptions. Okay, and why basically to use the exception? So using the exception, we tell the code what went differently than it may be during the normal flow of the program. And as we can see here, it tells absolutely correct that we tell to the code, not usually to the user, because sometimes the user may also don't see that exception is occurred. We'll see how it can be done, but this is absolutely correct that we tell the code, not the user. Because the exception, we'll see it a little bit later, then exceptions occur in the code. And then, in this case, how this happens, Java, this exception is occurred in Java, and then Java shows us this particular output, this particular error message. But it is handled by the code, and it is used in the code, and it can be used in different ways. Okay. And also it can be used for the debugging and understanding the control and flow. In addition, it is mentioned that it is used to understand and control the flow. In fact, exceptions are also the part of the program flow. So using them, we control the flow of the program. We'll see how can we do it, but just maybe if we go ahead, using the exceptions, we control the flow of the program. And how do exceptions happen? It is said in this way that Java does not know what to do, so it creates an exception object, includes some useful information, and throws the exception. Exceptions can be created, and we can throw them using our own code. So it is done in the code, and the exception is triggered inside the code. Basically, how does it works this way? How does it work this way? For example, here, what Java does? Java, we don't see the code, but it is somewhere on the core level. Here Java tries to access this variable. So there's somewhere the code which tries to access this variable. Then it sees that it is null, so there is no reference, and then the code collects this information, where it happened, and then throws the exception. So the program also prints this message to us. We can also do it in our own way, and we will see how can we do it. But after the presentation. Okay. So how basically what are the exceptions? And so we previously seen these examples, and what these exceptions actually are. In fact, the exceptions are the classes. It's nothing more than just the classes. How can we check it? So we can somewhere here maybe. Maybe I will ask throw, and then just quickly class exception, for example. Then I will go here, and we can see that this is just this is just a simple class provided by Java. It's class with one specific thing, and this thing is for all the exception classes, for all the exceptions. That exception classes are extended from the exception class. This one, which actually extended from throwable, then it's 0 as well. But the main thing is that all the exception classes are inherited from the extend exception class. And so it means that if you create your own class and you extend the exception or one of the exception classes, it means that your class is the exception class right now. Yeah, so this is basically what the exceptions are. And since these are the classes, then then we have the attributes, we have the methods, and we can use the objects using these classes. Yeah. Yeah, these all are the classes. And yeah, so if we want to define our own exception, then we create the class and we extend the exception class. And yeah, next thing is how to warn Java about the exception. As we seen previously, we had to, that was, for example, for Java database connectivity, we had this thing that Java asked us to, not asked, but Java warned us that we need to use throws. Yeah, basically not only throws, but we can also use try catch. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit later about it. But just if we don't do any catching, or just if we don't define for the method that we are throwing the exception inside the particular method, then we'll have the error. That's because this is the thing requested by Java. If we go to file library, I will show you why this happens. I think this one. Yeah. So for example, we have input output exception. This is exact exception class, and as you remember, Java complained that we must catch it or define to the method that it throws the exception. And so for all the simple exceptions, we have to throw them. But as you remember, just right now we used we had the exceptions. These exceptions, for example, array index out of bounds exception, and as you remember, they did not in the past exception, for example, they did not require us to. Let's just quickly navigate to it. Past exception. They did not require us to catch them or to define to the method that it throws this exception. That's because these exceptions extend runtime exception, and for them we don't need to throw them for runtime exceptions. But for input-output, we can see that this does not extend the runtime exception, and this is why we need to throw them. So how does it work? Inside the method, we have the case which can throw which throws this input-output exception. Not remember where it was. I think there was somewhere in file class or buffer reader, somewhere here inside. The exception can be thrown. If it happens, then the program catches the exception, and so it can happen inside this method. And to escape it, we need to catch this exception. Basically, we have two ways. We can use try catch, and we can also define that the method throws this particular exception. If this is not just the main method, if it's any method we have, as we had here, the Java database class. Sorry, I would have different method here. So it means that this method should also, if we have it inside, then it means that if this method is called from somewhere, then for the place where this method is called, inside the method which calls this method, we need to define that this method also throws the exception, or that this or we can use try catch. We'll see how to use try catches a little bit later, but yeah, for Java we need to warn if inside the method the exception can be there can be the exception thrown inside the method, then we need to define that this particular method throws the exception, except for those exceptions which extend runtime exception clause. Alright, so right now let's have the break, and after the break we'll continue talking about exceptions. Okay, let's move on. So we have throws keyword, which is used to point to the method signature that this particular method throws the exception, and basically how to throw the exception. We use throw keyword. Yeah, so here we have basically two keywords. We have throws, which is used for the method signature, and we have throw, which is used to throw the exception. So these are two different keywords. Please don't mix them up. Yeah. How to catch the exception? Okay, yeah, that and we could even take 2048. Okay, I will get it. Yeah, so we have to catch the exception. To catch the exception, we use try catch. So what try catch is? These are two blocks. Basically, we may have more than two blocks. We can have one try and multiple catches. How does it work? So we have try block. Inside try block, we have the code. Yeah, any actions which basically any actions with the code. And once the exception is occurred, the corresponding exceptions here, then it passes the object. The object comes from the place where when the exception is raised. Yeah, for example, here, new object is created, new exception is created. Then once this is created, it comes to this place right here. Here is the object created right here. So again, method get is called. So this is this method. Then index is less than 0, so the exception is raised. exception is raised and the object comes here. So how can we do it in our case, for example? We want to throw the exception, we'll just use try catch. Maybe let's do one by one. So the first one we use try, and then at the end of the code I will pass try, and we have catch. And here I need to provide the type of the exception which will be cast, which will be called. So if I, for example, use class cast exception, and I have the exception which is not class cast exception, or not the subclass of class cast exception, I'm still getting the same exception, still getting the same error here, this same message, because here I catch a different exception, and which is not the subclass of this class mentioned here. But to catch this exception, what we can do, we can find the right type here, and define the right type here, and after that we'll see that the error message will not be here. Because, so how the program works here, program goes inside this block, try, so it just do the first step, then the second step, and this step the exception is occurred, this one, null pointer exception. So the program goes here. For example, here I can also print that the exception is occurred. Null pointer exception. And the code from here will be executed. So the code from here is executed. The same way we can use the object, this one, and to print the error, I call the method print stack trace, and we will have the same error message we had before. But in addition, we can see that the code after that is also is executed. That's because we just, so how the program works, it just goes here inside this block, just does all the statement one by one. First, the second one, exception is occurred, okay, we go to catch inside this block, and after that we just continue to do all the steps. So we just do all the steps inside catch block, and then we go outside this catch block and just execute all the things here. And so at this point you can see that using try catch, we can just simply create the flow of the program. We can define the flow of the program. We don't need to just simply, after we have the exception, so the program crashes and nothing more happens. For example, if we have the variable comes from this way. So the variable comes from somewhere. It's not mandatory it's here. It can come from different methods. Doesn't matter from where it comes. But let's execute it. But since we use this variable here inside this try, so it comes to this try block. Exception is cured, so it means that this variable we cannot use it. For example, we print all the things, and after that we don't use this variable anymore. And as an example, if we want to deal with one particular variable or many variables, then we can just to be sure that they will not break our program, we can use try catch, and this will not break our program. And basically this is, in my experience, this is how usually developers, just if they add some code to the existing program, usually just to not break the program, developers just what they do, they just define try, then define inside their code. So how it usually happens? So there's existing code, with all the logic, and then the task for the developers is just to modify the code a little bit, to do some changes there, to add some new logic here. And how it usually happens, the new logic is added inside try block, and after this try block there's the catch. Usually it is just a catch exception, so all the exceptions will be called there, and the program just continues its own way, how it was before the changes. So basically the way for the program just to not crash the whole system, just one particular piece of code which will not affect the program, the whole program, in case there are any exceptions there. And this is maybe the most the simplest example, just a simple example. And usually, as I said, nothing special happens, just exception is called, and we just continue the program. The thing I said is that I mentioned, but I have not explained how the exceptions are, how we can catch the exception. As you already noticed, we usually just type throws exception and without any specification. And that's because, as I said, all the exceptions are inherited from exception class, and exceptions work in the way that comment this section out and catch exception. Maybe just apply exception. So in this case, if we catch exception class, this will also catch any exception you can have inside your code. And that's why, as I said, usually in Java this is exception class. In other programming languages, the name of this class may be different. Sometimes it can be root exception or something like that. But usually, and again, the most simple way how to use the exceptions is just write try, then write catch exception, like in Java, and inside your code, if you have any exception, your code will not break. It will go here and then it will go here as an option. And in Java and in all other programming languages where exceptions are programming languages where the exceptions are used, if you catch the exception, which is the superclass of the exception occurred, then this exception will be caught inside this block. So we can catch the exact exception, we can catch any superclass of this exception, and it will work. So we can pass any superclass of the exception, this will work. So the exact class or any superclass, then the exception will get here. In addition, like if you have something like this, as I said, Small mistake from my side. So you can also have such a situation where you have two catch blocks. And what does it mean? Let's check it in this case. So this catch block is not triggered, but this one is triggered. If we have different exception, something like that, then we'll see that the second, the first exception will not be triggered, this one will be triggered. That's because, again, as I said, we can have multiple catch blocks, and how Java works in a simple way, it just goes this way. So we are in try, we just do step-by-step execution here. And exception is occurred, we know the class of the exception occurred, and then we go just one by one on the catch statements. And how does it work? So we go here and we check, is this class a subclass or a superclass of the class, or the superclass of the exception, the same class or the superclass of the exception occurred in the code. If it's true, then we go here. If it's not true, then we go to the next one and see, is the exception occurred inside the code? If this is if this class is the same class or the superclass of the exception occurred. Since exception class is the superclass for all the exceptions, it is true, so we go here and we finish it. That's why we cannot pass it this way. The program will be incorrect, because if we have exception class here, as I said, it is the superclass for all the exceptions. So it means that, again, we go one by one. So it means that if we are here, we will never, so it will be impossible to go to the next catch block, because it will always go here, right? And that's why exception is here, and it is complaining that this is unreachable catch block. It's already handled by catch block for exception. Yeah, that's true. That's why we cannot do it this way. If we have exception, for example, the pointer exception, what else we have? Array out of bounds, index out of bounds, exception. So this is this one. Then we can also have yeah, you can see that this exception is occurred, so this will be bounds out of exception. And so we can see that again the program will go to this exception, checks if this is the same class or the subclass or the superclass. No, goes to the next one, it is correct. If we have the exception occurred here, then we will go to the first one. Then we have no pointer exception, so it is here, that's correct. The exception is occurred and we are inside this block. If we have the exception which is not thrown here, which is not called here, some cost exception, then we run the program and we see that exception is not caught, is not handled, because we don't have the class, exception class, which handles this particular exception. That's why the program we don't have any catch block where this program can go after the exception is occurred. Right, okay, so this is about the flow. Yeah, it can be done just an accident way, just to check something. It can also be done that we have, for example, multiple options. So we try something here. We go to catch. So we try. The attempt is unsuccessful. Then we go to catch block. Inside catch block, we can also use try catch block, and basically just we can have inner try catch blocks as well. All right, so that's about it. If you have any questions, please ask. This is how can we catch. That's because we're throwing it. So if we have the method and we don't want to deal with the exception, which is not runtime exception, then we define to the method throws. So it means that for each method which has throws inside the signature, we put throws to signature, and it means that this exception will be redirected to the method which actually calls this method. So it means that every method which calls this particular method, it will be required to write try catch block, or to put throws exception, or to redirect the exception to the method which calls that method, which calls this method. So basically, on the hierarchy, we go to the top. And yeah, for example, we have main, we have do method, then we have get. So this method throws the exception, then it redirects the exception to this one. Yeah. So here we also get the exception, and then we go to the main method when this exception is occurred, and then after that we have nothing for main method. So it means that it will just print stack trace right here. Yeah. Also, for example, so since we talked about the exception objects, so as I said, this is the object, the class. Refer to the class, so it has different methods here. Instead, we can print stack trace, we can notify, we can basically there are the methods the same way as for all the classes. Yeah. And we'll see when we create our own exception classes, then we can define also our own methods there. And also all the casting features, all the class features, all the casting features, subclasses and superclasses, all these things can be applied interfaces, or we can use all these things for the exception classes as well. Alright, and yeah, what if no one catches the exception? If no one catches the exception, then we will have the message in our console line that exception occurred, and then we will have the stack trace. So we'll see all the places where we call something, from where we call the particular methods, and we can determine the line where the lines actually where the methods are called, and where the exception is occurred. Yeah, we can check more info, and this is it for the presentation. And now we will have some more practical things. Here, if you have any questions, please ask. And yeah, we will Yeah, I will create another class, and this will be input exceptions class. Yeah, first of all, let's create main method, and as you remember, when we use math, we cannot divide by 0, for example. And we can use, for example, we can use scanner class, and we will enter the values from the console. So first of all, let's ask user to enter the maybe value 1, and then enter value 2 as well. And then also need to close this corner, and then we can define the value. So value 1. Yeah, that next line as usually. I will parse integer, the string to integer, and then the next value also the same way. And yeah, let's see what happens if we divide vision to divide by 0. Yeah, so I'll try to print out the result. Yes, and we can define the result. So value 1 divided by value 2. We can print the result. So if we divide by 0, we face the exception, arithmetic exception. Yeah, so just by default we have this exception. Yeah. So how can we do it? We can use try and catch. And we can catch this exception. And yeah, so I will print cannot divide by 0. So if we do it from the code, then we'll try to do it. And so I have the message that I cannot divide by 0. Alright. So, what else can we do? What else can we do? For example, in the same program, I can enter the value and I can enter the text, for example, and we see that we have another exception here, different exception. So this exception is number format exception. As we know, we can enter only the integers. But again, since the users are people as well, then it's possible that users enter something incorrectly. This is absolutely fine, and just to not allow the users to break our program, we can handle the incorrect input they provide. Okay, so so I will also add this title here, text instead of the value of integer value. So, and in this case, as we can see, so if I add it here, this should not work. So here, we'll see that this will not work. You can enter the integer number only. And yeah, this will not work. At least the exception will not be thrown here. And do you understand why? Yeah, that's the question to you. Do you understand why we do not get the exception? We get the error here and not the print we provided here. No. Okay, yeah, that's okay. I guess from Christiana. Yes. Yeah, that's correct. That's because we have try at the end. So in this case, please also be careful when you use try catch. Also be careful how your block is built. So what do we need to do in this case? In this case, we need to place actually our catch block in a different place. Yeah, basically we need to create it differently. But again, we'll see what happens in this case. Yeah, if we write try catch here, this will also be incorrect incorrectly. Yeah, we can see it right here because we define the values inside the block, but this is what I mentioned about the visibility of the variables. The variables can only, if we define the variables inside the block, it means that these variables will only be available inside the block where they are defined. And since value 1 and value 2 are defined inside the block, we cannot use them outside the block as well. Yeah, this is the first thing, and even more if we just define. Yeah, in this case we can escape this issue this way, yeah, for example. But we'll still have the issue because if yeah, it says that the variables may not have been initialized. And this is what Java says to us, because we attempt to enter the values here inside this block, and also in case we have any issues there, the variables will be initial. Yeah, they will not be initialized. For example, again, if we enter, in this case, if we try to enter also the text, not the integer, then we have this exception. For example, if we enter this for the first value, then the second value will not be processed here, and yeah, it will not be initialized. That's why, again, we need to put it into the right place and build the block correctly. So first of all, I will move it again at the end, because this is more important than division by 0. And also need to put try inside right place, so it should be here, and this will be correct. Just line break to distinguish these blocks. So we have try inside try. That's also the flaw of the program, because we have a huge we may have a huge issue. This is even if we don't this happens if we don't have the correct values at all. Yeah, the values are not initialized correctly, then yeah, we have more serious issue, which is the first one, and it goes here, and then the program stops. Then if the values are entered, then we can have the exception here, exception right here, when we try to divide. Okay. So we try to type text here, and then it shows us that we can enter integer number only. Also regarding the second exception, we can also do it this way. We can escape attempting to divide by 0, but what we can do, we can check if value 2 is 0, then if it's 0, we throw the exception arithmetic error. So two times. Okay, so that's so that's a little bit interesting. Okay, sorry. Of course. Well, that's I usually miss new keyword. Yeah, that's obviously. Again, since we create new object, as I said, the same way as we do it for all the objects, we also need to create the exception object, and then it will occur here. Yeah, so it also complains that scanner, but actually scanner is closed. Okay, that's dummy warning, I guess. Okay, so let's try again. In this case, we'll have the same result. The program will go to this catch. Yeah, but without we can also, if we skip this one, we'll see that the result will be the same. Without even trying to divide by 0. So we check it before we divide by 0. In addition, so it shows arithmetic exception, we can define our own exception. So maybe let's define it as a separate class. So I will define this exception, division by 0. And I will extend exception class. And yeah, so since for exception classes need to there's the warning that need to declare serial serial version UID. I think that can be generated from here. Yeah, that's just to escape the warning. also generate serial version UID, but that's not so important for us. And then, yeah, so this is just a simple class which can be used as the exception. So what do we have here? We have the constructor. We can define our own constructor. And for example, we can have the so since we try to divide, then we usually divide two values. Yeah? So then we have value 1 and we have value 2. Also getters and setters. I want to use setter, I'll just use getter. We'll see why. And the constructor. So the constructor will be, so I'll put the values we try to divide, used in division. And first value will be divided by second value. And here in the same way I will populate the values. This value equals value 1. And the second value equals value 2. And I can define my own method. Print error. Example. And I will print the error. Here I'll just one line. You try to divide value 1 by value 2. Okay, and now we can use this exception clause. Yeah, so we will not use this exception clause, we'll use another exception clause. Here I'll try division by 0. And yeah, I will. Oh yeah, okay. So that's. The moment is unreachable, but it will be reachable. We'll do it this way. We'll throw it from here. Division by 0, and here I'll provide the values. And now it will be reachable from this point. In fact, this is unreachable right now, but Java does not see it. But yeah, that's not so important for us. Okay. And here we can print our error. And yeah, so let's execute it. Let's actually divide 2 by 0. And so we have the error which comes from here. So this is the way how can we define our own exception clause. Yeah. In fact, we can basically create our own logic for this using the exception clauses. So the idea is that we throw the exception at some exact place, and at exact place, and then it goes to the place where we catch it, So we catch it, and then we do any actions with the object, error object, or we can also just do nothing as well. Also, as an option, just go ahead. So yeah, as we can see, we use the exceptions to basically control the flow of the program. But in some cases, that would be the approach which is not correct to be used if you just want to jump through the code. Yeah. So just if you want to skip something, for example, go here, go one by one. You have the thing to skip. So you have some reasons why you don't want to execute the code which is ahead. So you throw the exception, then you go to catch. This is not correct approach because again, please remember that the exceptions are not used to jump through the code. Yeah. So if we just simply throw without any actual exception, then we go to catch. So we skip the code and we jump to the catch statement. This is not what we should do because this is not the reason why we use the exceptions. We use the exceptions to control the flow of the program by catching the right exceptions. So we have then the issue, the error, or something like that. We throw it, we go to catch. We don't use exceptions in case with the reason that we just want to skip the code. Yeah, this is not how we should normally act. Yeah, that's not why the exceptions are used. What else we can do? Yeah, in the previous example, before the break, maybe one last example. As you remember, we used multiple catch statements. What we can also do, we can, in one catch block, we can define the exceptions we want to catch. And we can define it using such horizontal line. In this case, this will be unreachable. Maybe let's do it differently. I will comment out this code. Down this code, and I will make this way. So in this case, this is correct. A moment. Oh yeah, of course. To the code variable. Yeah. Have to no pointer exception or array index out of bound exception. Now we can execute it. See that catches one. It can catch both a no pointer exception and array index out of bounds exception. Yeah, one of these two exceptions can be occurred using this block. We can define multiple exceptions in this way and separate them using a vertical line. Okay, so let's have the break now, and after the break we'll continue. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, so let's have some more examples where can we use the exceptions. Maybe let's move back to the file reader. We had some other files. Yeah, here it is. And yeah, so here we throw input-output exception, and maybe let's so let's not use it right there, but in this case, yeah, we have the error. That's because file reader may throw the exception, and yeah, so this one is, it says input-output exception. So in this case, we can use try, then we can use catch. Yeah, we can catch any exception, but to be more precise, we can use input-output exception, which means that we can print that the file is not found. So if I just simply run it this way, then everything is fine. If I type something like this, then yeah, exception is triggered, the file is not found. So this is how can we handle the case when the file is not found. Alright, so this is about this example. Let's maybe have a little bit more. Here, let's have input exceptions. Yeah, maybe let me comment out this section and move it right here. Yeah, and here we have get character of string. So what will we do? We will input the we'll ask user to write the string, and then write the position at which the user wants to get the character, and then if everything is correct, we will just print this character. Otherwise, we can catch the exception. So yeah, we'll ask user to enter the. string. Take the string. And value will be stored in the variable. This one next line. And then I will ask user to in the position of the character set a certain position. I will ask users to enter the position. Wait, so not here, but from scanner. -1, because we assume that the user will enter the position starting at 1, not at 0. And so here we will print maybe let's do it this way. I'll define character position provided by user. Wait, sorry. Value char add position provided by user, and I'll print out the character in that position. Here I will add one to position. As previous one I decremented one, then I will increment it, and here I will type as scan character. Alright, here it is. So what can we have here? Initially we can just type everything correctly here. For example, I can write it this way here. Then I ask user to what's the character at position 6? Then the character is I. This one. So everything is fine. But what can be wrong here? First of all, we can write the string, but enter the position something like that, and we can see that string index out of bounds. So this is the first issue which can occur. It means that position is out of bounds. So, and what we can do, we can just try catch here. And index out of bounds, and notify user that the position. Then I'll type +1. Is incorrect. And it's out of. Maybe I'll just keep incorrect. So what else can we have? In this case, by type referring to the string. Then type position 312, and it says the position control is incorrect. But I have another exception. And this may be, yeah, so here everything is correct. And here I type the text again, and so I still have the error. Now I have a different one. So again, I can catch different exception here. Number format exception. But again, in this case, this will not work. So I need to move up a little bit. Now it should be correct. Okay, so I will. Oh no, it won't be correct because position is not defined here. Yeah, so maybe that's what we think. Yeah, we can define. Usually, what we do, we define the position outside the block. Define the position outside the block. And we don't have any issues there. Okay, so right now I'm gonna print out and I'll notify user who can not enter the letters as the position. Okay, here we have the issue again, but yeah, basically this is the issue which will never happen. So in this case we can write something like -1. That's we can call it dummy entry to get weight of the compiler error. Yeah. In fact, because we know what happens next, we go to position, and in this case, the position will be entered. If it's incorrect, then it goes. Then it goes here, and we just don't show anything. If it is correct, then it will be populated right here, and it can be used here. That's why, in fact, this is dummy decoration, because we know that the program will work correctly anyways. Alright, so right now let's start something. So if we have something like text, then we have the exception that we cannot use the letters to define the position. Alright, so that's about it. Okay, that's about it. Okay, so do you have any questions about what we have done so far? No? Okay, so basically I think we managed to discuss most of the things about the definition of the exceptions. Another thing is maybe the last thing, there is one more keyword related to the exceptions in Java. In a moment I will search for one example. Yeah, that's called finally. Okay. one more thing, it is not so it is not used so usually, but there is also such thing called keyword finally, used for the exceptions. And example is finally. So yeah, again, let's have try catch block, and let's catch an exception here. I'll write the code. Let's quickly the init scanner, and just for example, let's divide by 0. Again, I define the scanner here, and okay, I'll close the scanner after that. Okay, so what we have? Okay, we have try, and we can have the logic here. Have value 1. And then I will parse the values from input. And let's have. I won't ask user to input because that's not so important for us. And let's execute another one. Yeah. So we have catch and and yeah, let's print. The exception is exception killed. Yeah. And for example, let's imagine we have yeah, maybe at first let's yeah, as I said, we'll discuss finally block. Finally block. Finally block is triggered. Okay, so as an example, let's try to divide them. Just yeah, I won't use the result, but I will just divide them. So 1 divided by value 2. So I just want to try to get the exception. Okay, so we write 2 values here. And yeah, final block is still triggered, and despite yeah, that's the part of try block. That's the part of try block. Yeah. So we can see that it will always it is triggered even if there is no exception. Yeah. in addition, what we can have, maybe in this case I will not use try catch exception, but I will use, so as you remember, we can have the arithmetic exception. And also we know that number format exception, and this one, and I'll just copy paste it. Format. Yeah. So let's quickly execute it. So I divide by 0, then I get this exception. And finally is still triggered. Finally is still triggered. And then also you can have text. Then I have another exception triggered, but finally statement is also executed. So yeah, basically the idea is that finally statement will always be triggered, despite the fact of which exception is occurred. Yeah. So yeah, this is basically also, yeah, this is the part of try catch block, so it will always be executed. Yeah, it doesn't matter what kind of exception do we get. But yeah, that's oh, in addition, yeah, one more thing, maybe just to distinguish them, the key thing. So I will turn the code which is outside, code this outside the try catch one. So if we turn this out, so it cannot return because one moment. Yeah, but let's maybe just do it differently. Oh no, so I will just return. So this will be fine. Yeah, even despite the fact that we went out of try block using return, so the method is returned. The method is closed at this point. so we won't we won't continue any actions here, but finally is executed anyway. So basically, regardless what happens in try catch block, finally will always be executed. So basically, why we usually use finally, it is usually called as the cleanup. So it means that we do some actions here inside try catch, and regardless what happens there, after try catch is finished, if we return, if we use a return statement, or we just simply call to catch. So we want to call finally anyways. Anyway, yeah. So even if we crashed somewhere here, for example, then we want to do some logic in finally. So this will be called anyway, even if we call return statement or something like that. So this is just a stable thing which will always be called for try catch. And yeah, this is needed for cleanup, as I said, mostly. Okay, so I think we covered most of the things related to exceptions. Do you have any questions about the exceptions? Okay, so if you don't, then please start working on the project work. You have, I think you have some things to do there. Next time we will start covering the topics you mentioned in the document sheet. I haven't checked yet all, but I think that you have mentioned them. Yeah, this is the first time checking it. So next time we will start checking them together. We will go through all these things anyways just before, so I can prepare for the next session a little bit. Methods using, so as I understand, here we need to discuss where we need to use the methods and how to use them. Okay, we can discuss it, collections and maps. And that's the topic we just gone through. Yeah, but we can repeat it as well, iterate. Yeah, that's the thing you were always asking me about. Okay, we can go through it again, and we'll discuss it. Debugging, yeah, that's a really nice question. I think a really nice topic to discuss. I think we haven't gone through the debugging a lot, but it is a really useful tool and really useful way how can we determine the issues in the code. So yeah, it's a really nice topic. We will repeat it. Then differences when you should use one or other type of collection. Okay, that's also a really interesting question, and mostly that's the theoretical question as well. But we will discuss it as well. And yeah, iterator with hash map. Yeah, that's also an interesting question. We will discuss it next time. So yeah, please, those who also want some topics to discuss more, starting next time we will discuss them. So please, also about the exceptions, if you have any questions, you can also mention them here. For today I think we've covered all the main things we wanted to cover about the exceptions. So next time, please add more topics if you want to discuss, so we will discuss them. Okay, for today I think that's it for this session. If you have any questions, you please ask me. I will be reachable. And so good luck here in your project work. Okay, and see you on Wednesday. Bye.